Hello, welcome to worship. I'm Jan Richardson, and I serve in ministry with the good folks of Stettler United Church. Our worship service today is part two, actually, of celebrating the union of the United Church of Canada. Last week, we made mention of this anniversary, which is 95 years as of June the 10th. And it seemed to me there was much to still be mentioned and celebrated and reflected upon at this time in the life of our church. So happy anniversary to all who, for a long time, a short time, or an intentional visitation of times to be part of the United Church of Canada. Our worship service today is made into a video for people to use at their opportunity, whenever time of day or week, thanks to our volunteer summer student, Robin Urempcio. We're grateful for that. And I'll mention that next Sunday, June the 21st, there will only be the video option. I am away to preside at a gravesite for an extended family members service, and Joyce and Sue from our worship committee will be working with Robin to videotape a service that will be presented on Facebook and YouTube next Sunday in a video version. Last Sunday, I mentioned that a couple local Stettler people were very concerned and wanted to know how to respond in a public way to the to be a voice for anti-racism. So in a whirlwind from Sunday to Friday, I am pleased and proud to say that a number of people were able to participate in an anti-racism rally in the football field at Stettler on Friday afternoon, with wonderful leadership given to local arrangements and in the people who were our guest speakers from Lacombe, Red Deer, and yet with roots in smaller towns such as Consort and Trochu as well. So it was a wonderful bringing together of their truth and experience, and be a time of visiting, listening, learning, and then thinking where this leads us into a future where indeed my life in the United Church of Canada calls me to celebrate unity in diversity. Our church board met this week as well, and some have asked about in-person worship. There are still many considerations, protocols, and policies to put in place. On a scale of 1 to 10, in-person worship is considered about 8 as far as a risk factor. So it's high on the scale, especially when you also add into the consideration of the age group that many come to our in-person worship. So we will continue to do what we are able, especially for the summer months, and keep everybody abreast of any changes through our Facebook and emails, or call the church if you have questions. I'm just going to show you our worship table today a bit more clearly, I hope, as I invite you into a time of gathering your celebrations, your concerns, what it is you bring to worship, and what are your needs, hopes, and expectations of the Spirit in our midst today. As we center and light the candle, the Christ candle. The light waits. Who will keep the light burning in our day? Who will take the light into the world? Who will take the light into another year. And we think of the expanse of the United Church of Canada as we light candles in the east, in the south, in the west, in the north. And we also think of those who carry the message in speaking up, standing up, showing up for justice in virtual pride parades and all forms of mission and ministry. Who will carry the light if we do not? Leads us into singing today in our muted way at our own places at home as we worship, led by this video version of I, the Lord of Sea and Sky. Thus begins our service on the note that matters that we all show up and do have a part. And here, the circle of candles with their directions as taught by our indigenous church call us to turn, if not literally today, to face the different directions, to turn toward that which makes us think of what is the gift, who are the people of the East, the South, the West, and the North. So please join in the bold print in your place of worship as together we worship and pray, turning to the directions. Let us turn to the direction of the East, the place of the rising sun. In the East is the promise of a new day, a time of all beginnings, of all new things, of all new times, of all new hopes. May the light of the East dawn enable us to see with new clarity the beauty of creation and give thanks to the Creator that we have a place in each new day. So may it be with our hearts and minds. Let us turn our thoughts to the direction of the South, the place of warm sun and new growth. This is a time of exuberance and delight. This is the beginning of change in our lives. May we recognize the promise of rebirth among all living things in this part of Mother Earth as we await the warm winds of the South. So let it be with our hearts and minds. Let us turn to the direction of the West, the time of ripening growth. We are aware of the cool and sustaining waters of the West that calm our maturing hearts with courage and strength. We do this in the way of caring love. May the setting sun find us at peace with each other, so we will have no fear of the darkness. So let it be with our hearts and minds. And let us think and direct our thoughts to the north, the place of the cold winter winds and the rich wisdom of eldership, of fruitful living. Here we remember our ancestors and think of the generations to come. May the winter winds give us clear vision of how all life can be nurtured and sustained. So let it be with our hearts and minds. I had occasion on Wednesday evening to drive to the Hannah United Church for their board meeting. It was a glorious evening as far as the commuting goes. I go south, I go what I call the Bymore Indiang way, and then I come home so that I've created a circle. I come home 36 and the Castor Way. Things are lush. And in fact, sadly though, I saw 2 fields that still hadn't been harvested last fall, and yet everything was now green and growing in newness. And so it was interesting to think that this is our gospel focus for this Sunday. Good crop, few workers. And of course, we can use that in so many different ways of thinking. What is the crop? And who are the workers? And what would the harvest actually be? And Jesus went out about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of God's reign. and healing every disease and ailment. When he saw the crowd, he was moved by them, because they were in trouble and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then Jesus said to the disciples, "Although the crop is good, still there are few to harvest. So beg the harvest boss to dispatch workers to the fields." And summoning the 12 disciples, Jesus gave them authority to drive out unclean spirits and to heal every disease and every ailment. We pick up again. The 12 were sent out after Jesus gave them the following instructions. Don't travel foreign roads and don't enter a Samaritan city, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, make this proclamation: the reign of God is at hand. It draws near. Heal those who are sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, drive out demons. You received freely. Now, freely give. Take neither gold nor silver nor copper for your money belt, no traveling bag, no change of clothes, no sandals, no walking staff, for workers deserve their keep. Look for worthy people in whatever town or village you come to, and stay with them until you leave. As you enter a house, bless it. If the home is deserving, your peace will descend on it. If it isn't, your peace will return to you. And I invite you to join responsively in this litany. I found a celebration of faith as we weave the threads together of all being workers. We are a cloth of diverse colors made from many gifts and graces. We are the people flowing forth from Creator God, surprising ourselves with things which can be done. We are raw material for rewarding relationships as our lives interweave, contributing one to the other, holding each other firm when one is weak or breaking. We are each worthy of being respected and cared for, essential to the pattern, skilled in our appointed tasks, sources of laughter and sharer of tears. We commit ourselves to work together, that one day this world may be a place where all people live in justice, freedom, and peace. June the 10th, 1925. A union that formed the United Church of Canada. So 95 years ago. Our daughter, Dawn Richardson, who shared videos of Bible readings for last Sunday, just last week, part 1 of what I'm calling Union Sunday celebrations. And some of you will have seen and already reflected on this on Facebook. But she didn't remember, I didn't remember, that she had written this notation in 2014 after I'd posted, it was a list of 89 reasons for the 89th anniversary of the United Church. 89 things that the persons writing this post celebrated about our church. So I share her words because so many people said to me this week after I posted them that her words resonated with them and regarding the ethos of being part of a united and a uniting church. Dawn says, I was just reading through the 89 plus reasons and almost snorted my coffee as I read number 44, UCW egg salad sandwiches. Now, as a mom, I can tell you that she's not that keen on them. Anyway, she goes on to say, there were certainly many others that resonated, but I was particularly drawn to number 32. I have always loved the United Church, even as a child who had probably never heard of the words social justice, diversity, acceptance. I still loved it then for those reasons. I just couldn't put a tag on it then, and love it even more today that I understand. Why do I love the United Church? For me, the United Church represents the best kind of intentional family, a community that questions, makes mistakes, and tries again, humbly welcoming all and then scooching down the pew to make room for one more. Eats, sings, celebrates, cries, laughs, and talks together, because my scientific mind finds incredible comfort in the importance of the first line of the new creed: we are not alone. Church lady tea, fall suppers, bazaars, work bees, funeral lunches, inspirational leadership, a commitment to the importance of language and relevance in our own time, a stumbling, honest blend of tradition and innovation, candlelit stillness during silent night. Joy comes with the dawn. I am a child of God, passing the peace with hugs, inclusion of children and encouragement of wonder. Bulletin origami, that's a nod to our son Doug. Women ministers, go now in peace. So thank you, Dawn. Thank you for reminding us of what it is to pause and acknowledge a graduating step in the journey of church. God bless us all as we live in open expectation of the new and abundant life that comes with change and growth and generational involvements. Dawn names the church as her intentional family. The word that some biblical scholars offer us in reflecting on today's gospel, I found, emphasizes the discipleship as surrogate family. Jesus is once again being controversial for those with ears to hear, especially those who are rooted in the context of the Middle East, where loyalty to one's family, especially for sons, as he names the male disciples, of course, is paramount. It was as an actor last summer in the Passion play as Simon Peter's mother-in-law that my surrogate daughter, Michelle, who was playing Simon Peter's wife, and I were to give expression. We didn't really have lines, but we had teachings about how to express ourselves when the tension was in the air as Jesus was sending the disciples away to preach and heal. We watched as Simon Peter, in particular, took a lead role in leaving us without our fisher, our breadwinner of the household. Horrors. We were then asked to be equally expressive in displaying our understanding of his high calling, the need for sacrificial service, and rest in the assurance that we did have the village with us, even if for a moment in time we were feeling left behind. They would go to be a surrogate family. We would know the breadth of our surrogate family. These arrangements, without formal adoption, are something we can reflect on in our own westernized experience that meets us here, or that many of us are rooted in through generations. The one thing that comes to mind quite readily as I've been reading off and on articles about the 1918 to 20 pandemic time of Spanish flu spreading throughout the prairies here. Then it's tied into, of course, another thing, which were the wars, including till today, which mean soldiers go off, are sent, are deputized to be of service elsewhere. And so the surrogacy, the bond that we know in our family from Bob's dad, my father-in-law being part of his military family, the brotherhood was strong. And it's true in many families I've met and worked with over the years where an urgency, such as a death of a mother, often a mother and child, led to an informal adoption arrangement for children to go into the care of grandmas, aunties, etc. So we can understand something of this, and I think in our transitory lives, how many of us are feeling very separated, even on this group here on Zoom, let alone all of the people I can think of who've told me that they haven't seen their children in person or grandchildren because our lives are spread across country and across world at this time. So I hope we feel a strength in our surrogate family of the church. I believe Jesus' intent was that the disciples would be surrounded and supported in their leaving, as would the families left behind. Jesus also weighed that against being unable. His heart was heavy as he saw the needs for care, spiritual care, healing, hope, good news. So he couldn't do it alone, so arrangements were made that they would serve and strengthen the movement, the mission that he had started. I'm not sure that we have time, but I'm not sure you have choice. But this cute little story that I've probably used before as a sermon illustration. A child was spending Saturday morning playing in the sandbox, and there were lots of toys at hand, cars and trucks and a couple of shovels and pails. And in the process of creating roads and tunnels in the soft sand, the child discovered a rather large rock in the middle of the sandbox. So the child dug around the rock and managed to dislodge it from the dirt. Then they struggled to push and nudge the rock to the edge of the sandbox, using their feet even. And when the child got the rock to the edge of the sandbox, they just couldn't get it to roll up and over the edge of the sandbox. A parent was watching from the window and saw this drama unfolding, and just how determined the child was, shoving, pushing, prying. But every time they thought they were making progress, the rock tipped and fell back into the sandbox, once rolling back so quickly that it smashed the child's chubby hand. And the child burst into tears of frustration. As the tears fell, a large shadow fell across the child and the sandbox. It was the parent, who gently asked, "What's happening? How are you feeling?" Defeated, the child sobbed and talked about how hard they'd tried, using all the strength they had. "Well, not quite," suggested the parent kindly. "You didn't quite use all the strength you had. You didn't ask me." With that, the parent reached down, helped the child pick up the rock and remove it from the sandbox once and for all. I had that story in mind, and then I had the wonderful, marvelous moment of arriving here at the church, parking just as a child and their parent were coming along with this cute little car thingy, but also the father was pushing the car thingy. And I asked the child, did he like going for a drive? Oh yeah, he put his steering wheel into extra. But what they really were stopping to see was the action in the alley, because our alley is dug up and the new gas lines are being installed. There wasn't diggers today, but boy, was he interested in peeking over the fence to look at the hole in the ground. So frustrations that lead to outbursts that then lead to solutions are, to me, the whole circular cyclical story of the church I am a part of. Frustrations that lead to outbursts that lead to solutions and lead to probably more frustrations, more outbursts, new solutions. Does that in any way give us hope? I hope so. Surrogate families such as the church are and can be promising, hospitable when it comes to such things. What do you see when you're happening to be at your kitchen window, looking out on the ways of the world, or the window of our television screens or computer screens? Frustrations and failures, sobbing, defeat, people feeling spent and exhausted from trying with all their might. As we take up our calling anew this day or into this year in the life of the church, our ability to respond, do we surround and support without rudely swooping in and taking over? Do we offer to be part of a solution? Do we call upon an even greater strength that we may have realized we had yet to even include? A higher power, acknowledging that we too have and feel our own limitations. I pose these questions as a way to summarize the many things that are constantly referred to as issues within the United Church of Canada. Things we've addressed and come round to talking about again over our history, many of them being the very worship themes of this day or this month. Pride Sundays and parades, Indigenous History Month, and the speaker series such as I will be part of with Tony Snow as host this afternoon on Zoom, and the Right Reverend former moderator Stan McKay from Beauséjour being the guest speaker. We continue to try to come to new learnings, new understandings. The anti-racism rallies, the special worship and learning opportunities such as the Black clergy within the United Church of Canada, again, stepping up, offering an online worship for those that will participate. The frustrations truly felt by people trying to live within the protocols and policies needed in this time of pandemic. That too is hard, very hard and frustrating. The escalating rates of substance abuse, suicide, and domestic violence that can be attributed to the complexities of pandemic and economic turndown. The questioning here in Alberta just right now of Bill 1 is also calling us to understand what the frustrations and what the strengths are in our midst. I wish I could stop, but when I pray, when I think, the list just goes on and on. But we need to focus on what is our call. These things are our present context, our history, and our future. These things are part of our lived experience and part of our call to be part of the solution, not further problem. How then shall we live? How then shall we serve and sacrifice within our surrogate family and beyond? One of the perks of COVID time is more than one worship service per week if you want. And my colleague, Alvin, who serves the United Churches in Coronation and Veteran and is today celebrating 10 years of ministry within the United Church of Canada after having come from serving in the church in North India. He posted his video service in some kind of wee hours late last night. And so I was able to glimpse it this morning. and I appreciated listening to the message that for him focused on sacrifice, defining the word as giving up control or determination of our own lives for something even better. He then included a pretty cute joke himself, but you'll have to go to the video to hear it because I've already used up my allowance on that. I laughed, but did so acknowledging how hard it is to find or include a joke that doesn't offend or push buttons, even when that's certainly not the intent. Alwyn's sermon drew my attention to the list of names of the disciples turned apostles. I skipped over them when I sent out the Bible reading and did so today because I know when I hand a reading to especially lay leaders, they say, oh, will I pronounce these correctly? Well, I usually say, me too. But what is not there, if we skip over the names, is to then pause, as he did, to think of what those names remind us of. They remind us of the disciples themselves, that surrogate family, being a very complex group. They were deputized by Jesus, one being a tax collector, one a Canaanite, two were brothers whose mother insisted Jesus knew their superiority and specialness, and that they would have a place at the head of the table. Thank you very much. They all had different life experiences and vocations, yet they were now being asked to travel with and take care of one another, to collaborate with one another, to join forces in boldly going wherever the Spirit led them. So we turn to the strength that is the wisdom and guidance, that is internal more than an external authority telling us how to be about our mission. We collaborate, we group together, we organize as quickly as this week a group did in Stettler and say, let's listen to the frustrations. Let's see how I might be somebody to whom you can turn when you need strength. And let's offer ourselves in prayer and in hope. Before I ask you to recite together with me a new creed, I'm going to include a minute for mission that has a part in our honoring Indigenous History Month. A man who I was privileged to meet in Vancouver. He, for a number of years, was part of Native Ministry Consortium at Vancouver School of Theology, where I've attended some continuing education events over the years. And Alvin Dixon has left a legacy and has gone from this world, but is remembered well as an elder in Native ministries. As a church, we continue to work toward reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. Mission and service supports this work through your gifts, through the National Indigenous Church. We are thankful that we have elders like Alvin to lead us on the path. Alvin, a residential school survivor from Port Alberni, was taken from his community and sent more than 500 kilometers to that school, the residential school at Port Alberni, a United Church-run school where many children suffered sexual, physical, and psychological abuse. Alvin was beaten when he spoke his own native tongue of Halistuk rather than English. Alvin survived the school, earned a university degree, and later counseled fellow residential school survivors. He found comfort in Christianity he learned at the school as well. Alvin became a leader in the path of reconciliation. He was a caretaker of the Indigenous Circle, a mission and service supported program. As an activist in the United Church, he helped guide us to the apology to Indigenous peoples and to becoming a driving force behind the demand for a public inquiry into conditions of the residential schools, which led to the establishment then of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Alvin died from cancer in 2014 at the age of 77. His legacy of activism lives on. If you support the mission and service givings already, and that's a regular part of your donation to the United Church of Canada, thank you very much. If you have not, please join me in making yourselves aware of Mission and Service Fund and the various national and international programs that are a part of our life of faith. Loving our neighbor is at the heart of mission and service. And a video version from Knox United in Vancouver, and we can join in listening and sharing our new creed.
We are not alone. We live in God's world. We believe in God, who has created and is creating, who has come in Jesus, the Word made flesh, to reconcile and make new, who works in us and others by the Spirit. We trust in God. We are called to be the church, to celebrate God's presence, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and resist evil, to proclaim Jesus crucified and risen, our judge and our hope. In life, in death, in life beyond death, God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God. Amen.
So I invite you to find your prayer position, your posture of prayer this day, and be led, I pray, by these words. Creator God, we celebrate your very being, your artistry, the beauty, the harmony, the greenness, the goodness, as we turn from spring to summer. We turn from east to south. We turn from seeding in hope to then awaiting and letting the growth take place as things bloom where they are planted. May it be so for the provisions that are our food for our bodies. May it be so for the provisions that are in so many ways food for our souls. Gifts given, shared, blessed in the growing, blessed in the sharing, blessed in the reaping. We do pray, O God, for those who suffer at the hand of creation itself, thinking today of those who are now dealing with ruined crops already from hail and flooding. May this continue to help us care for one another and also know what it is that is in our power to change or determine. Gracious God, We pray for those who suffer locally, throughout this country, and throughout your world. Creation does groan, sigh. May we hear and be led by the Spirit to know how to tend the earth and all our relations. Creator God, turn our hearts and minds to the west, to the maturing, to the setting sun, to that whose time it is that has come. And may we live into that maturity as again we make ourselves aware and know what it is to bring our own life experience, even as we are open to learning from another. We thank you, O God, for those who are inviting us into the truths of their lives, not to shame us, but to invite our interest, our solidarity, our companionship on the journey. And may that take us into the north. May that take us into that which needs time to hibernate, that which needs time to sink into new beings, new opportunities, new growth and solutions. May we let ourselves concentrate and hear specific calls that fit with who we are, where we are, and what we know, and bring that again to that which is the larger host of hope. This, your discipleship, among many ways of being the place where 2 or 3 gather, and the Spirit is alive and among us. Gracious God, hear and attend the prayers that each of us name before you. Uplift today. Know their needs. Attend their needs. And prompt us to answer the prayers of others in the name and in the way of Jesus, who draws us together and teaches us to pray, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. One of the songs for a new generation, and yet it's already written in 1997, is Go Make a Difference. And this is a video version with the lyrics, and that will lead us in singing.
difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the salt of the earth, called to let the people see the love of God in you and me. We are the light of the world, not to be hidden but be seen. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the hands of Christ, reaching out to those in need. The face of God for all to see. We are the spirit of hope. We are the voice of peace. So go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. So let your love shine on. Let it shine for all to see. Go make a difference in the world. And the Spirit of Christ will be with us as we go. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference in the world.
Our sending forth words, let us go as listening, pausing, responding people, called to live the gospel's love. And as you go, know that you are comforted by a God of many stories. Know that you are walking alongside Jesus, a friend for the journey, and God's embodied love in human form. And know that you are inspired by the Spirit's call to respond. Go in peace. Amen.